Hello friends, welcome to Knowledge Bytes. This is the part 5 of Azure Fundamental series. In this course, we are discussing about Azure Fundamentals or AZ-900 certification exam as well as the course. So moving ahead, we'll discuss about common Azure resources. So some of the common Azure resources that you may be using in your day-to-day use cases going to be virtual machine, which is nothing but a virtual computer. You can think of it. Virtual network is a software representation of your networking. Storage account is used for like storing or data or any kind of files, anything in storage. Web app, as the name suggests, it's a web application. Function app is a function app. Basically, it will act upon basing of your logic or function. A network security group is a more like a software-based firewall. Azure Active Directory is used for your identity services. Azure Backup is for the backing up and resources like virtual machine, storage, etc. etc. Logic app is a special kind of apps which execute based on your logics. And lastly, Azure Monitor, which is used to monitor the logs or events like what happens around your all the resources that we have previously discussed. So without further ado, let's dive into Azure portal and see the resources in live action. So if you are not logged into Azure, then you'll have to type portal.azure.com and it will ask you to like sign in and like using your username password that you may have been created during your free subscription provisioning or any subscription. If you have a pay as you go, simply put your username password and you will get into the screen. So far previously we have created some resource groups. So if I go to resource groups, we have created two resource groups called app rg1 and app rg2. Now today we'll start by creating another resource group. I'll say this is a network RG3 and I'll put it in India. I'll put it in the central India because I want this to hold my network resources. That is why I'm naming it network RG1. Sorry, network RG3. So I'll just, so validation part. So the ECS has been created. Now, if I have to create the VNET that we are discussing, which is nothing but a software defined networking system within Azure, which allows your resources to communicate over the Azure private channel. So we'll do by, if I start by clicking on create a resource. Then in the search services, we will type virtual network. And we'll choose the first option that is called virtual network. And we'll choose only this option called virtual network and click on create. So the first thing that at the virtual network, before we create a virtual network, it will ask you to select an appropriate resource group. So points to remember, any resources you create in Azure, it must be located within a resource group. That is why you need to create a resource group. Again, if you have not created a resource group, you can click create new here and create a resource group directly from this blade. But since we have already provisioned this network RG3, I will select that one. I'll say this is VNET 1 simply. And the next tab, it is suggesting me some IP address, but if you are not happy with this IP address selection, then I can simply change it. But for now I am pretty much okay with 10/16, which will give me 65,000 address, which is more than enough. So I literally do not want a default subnet. Rather, what I will do, I will add a subnet. Subnet is basically a subset of your entire virtual network. So you will create subnet for purposes like, let's say I was trying to create two apps, app 1 and app 2. So I can create a subnet called app 1 subnet and another called app 2 subnet. Something like that. So I'm creating a subnet called app subnet 1. This is the subnet that I am going to use for my purposes like like application holding, and I will give it a /24. That will give me 251 usable address, total 256 IP. Sorry. So 10.1.0.1.0 by /24 will give me a 24 address. For now, NAT gateway services, we will omit those because these are advanced topics and we'll discuss in a AZ-104 course. You can watch that course later. But for now, I will just create a subnet called app subnet 1, and I'll create another subnet. This I will call DB subnet 1. This DB subnet 2. Sorry. So the idea is, in the app subnet, I'm going to create all my apps. In DB subnets, I'm going to create all my database services. I'll again give it a /24 subnet because I think that should be sufficient, and click on add. So now I have two subnets, and now I have the IP address configured for VNET. I can click on next, and I'll choose the default settings, that is Bastion host, DDoS protection, firewall. All should be disabled because that should be fine. Tags I'm skipping, and I'll directly keeping review plus create. So to look for a validations. If the validations pass, then we can create the virtual network. So that now that validation has passed, I will click on create. It will take couple of minutes for Azure to create this virtual network. And things to remember, Azure virtual network will only have private IP. It will not have a public IP address by default. If you are wondering what is a private IP or public IP, so for now just understand private IP is something that is usable and available within your network and within your company or within your premises. Public IP is something which is more available in a global scale. So you can reach to a public IP from internet, where private IPs are only accessible within that scope or perimeter. So basically this virtual network, all the IP addresses is currently only available for this subscription called Knowledge Bytes IT. So I have that resource called VNET 1 now created. If I go to this VNET 1, it will show me some default settings like this is the overview section. It will give me the resource group name, the location, subscription, address, DNS services. For now, DNS service is again like Azure provided DNS, because we want the DNS service, that is like domain name service or any name resolution, to be happened by Microsoft Azure itself. We don't want to do anything for now, and we will not discuss about other things. For now, we'll go to something called subnets. So you already have two subnets called app subnet and DB subnet with usable IPs. Since now we have our virtual network configured, we will go and create a VNet using the app subnet 1, and we will have that virtual machine in the resource group called app RG1, because that is the virtual that is the application that I'm trying to create. So I'll create a virtual machine. To create a virtual machine, you can click on virtual machine directly from your home screen. But if you're unable to see virtual machines here, you can click on create a resource. Then it should be generally under the popular apps Azure services. But if it is not there by any chance, you can type virtual machine, and it will take you to this page, and you will select virtual machine and you will click on create. So like I said previously, each and every virtual machine needs a resource group. So as I said, I will host this virtual machine in app RG1 because I am trying to host my first application within this virtual machine. Again, I want it to be the Central India region. Again, each and every Azure resources, mostly of the Azure resources would be tied up to a particular region, and there would be some of the resources which would be global. But for now, to understand the resources that requires hardware, infrastructure, and things, they would be mostly tied up to a particular region. Now, the second thing that we need to give to the virtual machine is a virtual machine name. So I'll call it app VM1. Now availability option is infrastructure redundancy. So previously we have learned about something called availability zone, right? Which availability zone is nothing but a subset of your region where one or more data center is hosted. So we need to choose an availability zone. In central India we have 3 availability zones. So I would like to host it in zone 1. Security type, let it be standard. And for this virtual machine I need a Windows Server 2019, and I will go with Windows Server 2019 Gen 2. So this size for B1 rather than B1, I will choose for a different size, that is I'll go with B1S. Says history service eligible. I will give a username and password. I'll generate a strong password and utilize that password for the VM's password. I think 18 characters would be fine. Copied the password in a notepad because otherwise I would have needed that to log in. So for now I will say public inbound ports as none because we do not need a public IP. We will come to that later. And this inbound ports and other things, let it keep blank. For disk is something like where I need to the virtual machine will host the data. So for OS disk I'll choose for a standard hard disk. Standard hard disk. So there are 3 kinds of disks available with Azure. That is called standard HDD, standard SSD and premium SSD. So these are the performance tier where standard HDD is the lowest cost according to available on all Azure disk types and has the least performance, where premium SSD has the highest cost and has the highest performance as well. So but I don't need this to be high performance because it's a different VM. So I'll go with standard HDD. I'll say delete with VM, that is fine. And there is another option called enable ultra disk. Ultra disk is something like it's even costlier than a premium disk. You can use this if your application is so high performance intensive application, but for now we do not need that, and I do not need any extra data disk as well. So I'll keep that blank and I will. So in the advanced sections I will keep the selection as it is and we'll go for networking. So it's trying to create a new virtual network for us, but I don't need a new virtual network. I already have a virtual network called VNET 1 and I will host it on subnet 1. For public IP address, for now I will choose not to do anything. Again, for network security group I will omit that because we will later revisit the network security groups in this code. Create one and attach it to the virtual machine. I'll select this option, delete NIC card when VM is deleted, so that when we clean up these resources or when you decommission the virtual machine, you can delete all the resources together, and this is certainly a best practice. This is also saying, do you want to place this virtual machine behind a load balancer? I will not select this because load balancer is out of scope for this particular code. We will learn that in later course like AZ-104. So on that time we will revisit this. For management, I will not touch any of the option. I will keep as it is. And patch orchestration, I will patch orchestration. I will just only select manual updates because I don't want the Azure to this VM to be starting patching as soon as I provision. For this monitoring section, I'll disable the boot diagnostics because we'll revisit that boot diagnostics later when we configure a storage account after that. So for now I will disable it and I would not enable any of the alert rules. In the advanced sections I will not touch any of these options because this is not something that is within the scope of this course. And then I'll go for review plus create. So it's running the validation and also giving me a cost estimation. It will charge me ₹1 per hour, which is fine. So I will just quickly check if I have selected everything that is right and clear. So I see I have selected proper resource group, proper virtual machine name, location, region. Everything looks okay to me. So I'll just click on create to provision this virtual machine. This virtual machine provision will take some time. So meanwhile, what we will do, we'll create another virtual machine, and this time we'll place this virtual machine to resource group 2, because this virtual machine would be usable for the virtual machine, application 2. So I'll repeat the same process. I'll go to virtual machine blade, click on create, select Azure virtual machine. This time I will select the resource group at RG2. I'll give a virtual machine name as AppVM2. I'll choose the region as Central India. I think App RG2 is South India. Just let me open Microsoft Azure in a different tab. So it's not that I cannot create the virtual machine in a Central India region and store it into application RG2, but I just wanted to store it into South India because this would be used for different applications and it will be in line with the resource location I choose for the resource group. Oh, it's giving me only Central India option because I do not have a virtual network in South India. So okay, fine, that's fine. We'll go with Central India because resource group location does not matter. Fine, and we'll select all the other options as default. So I'll select the resource group as App RG2, virtual machine name as AppVM2, region should be Central India, should be fine by me. Again, I'll go with V1 size. I'll copy this password. Again, I'll disable the public inbound ports and all these standard settings is as it is. For now, availability options, I will again choose availability zone. This time I will select zone 2. For disks, I do not need premium SSDs. I'll go with standard HDD. Networking, I will choose VNET 1 and again I'll choose the app subnet 1. Public IP I'll disable, I do not want one. Network security group, again I do not want anything. For management, I will just turn off the patching and set it to be manual so that I will only update like when I want. I'll disable the boot diagnostics because we'll revisit this section while we discuss about the storage account. For advanced, I will not touch any options. Then I'll click on review plus create to create this. So it's giving me an estimated cost of ₹1 per hour. That's fine by me. It looks fine. I'm choosing Windows Data Center 2016 Gen 2 B1. That's fine. So everything looks fine. So I'll just gonna go in and click on create. So this virtual machine creation will take some time. I hope. So while the virtual machine 1 is getting provisioned, you can see the app VM1 has been created. It does not have a public IP address. So if I try to connect using RDP to this virtual machine, it will run the checks that port prerequisite not met, IP address prerequisites are not met because VM does not have a public IP address. So I cannot connect this VM from a public or from my computer. So in order to do that, what I need to do is I need to assign a public IP address to this virtual machine. That is giving me in the recommendation too. IP address requisite is not met. Add a public IP address in the interface. So if I go to virtual machine, then click on networking tab, then check on the network interface. Sorry, in the overview section, you will see there are no public IP address assigned to it. What I will do, I'll create a public IP for this virtual machine. So to create a public IP, what we need to do is we need to click on create a resource. Search for public IP. So we'll need to choose this public IP address. As of now, we do not need IP prefix or reserve IP address. This we will discuss on the networking code, but for now we'll only choose public IP address and click on create. This will again ask me the IP version, SKU, standard, tier. So I will say it's regional, this IPv4 standard looks okay to me. I'll give it a name. App PIP1 because I'm going to assign it to application VM1. So I do not need a DNS label because I don't want it to be identified by DNS name. And I'll choose the location as Central India. And availability zone should be zone redundant, should be fine, because otherwise I can zone redundant means it will be hosted in any of the zone and data would be, it should be available like in case of zone redundant. But if you want it to be available in specific zone, like if I want it to be available in specific zone 1, I can do that too. So let's pick available, I will choose the zone redundant for now. Resource group, I'll put this in app RG1 because there is the place where all my application 1 related resources are being hosted. So I'll click on create now. It will take a couple of minutes to deploy. Meanwhile, if I go to resource group, go to app RG1, you will see 3 resources got created, but I only created 1, right? A VM. So things to remember, when you create a virtual machine, automatically a NIC card, that is a network interface resources, and a virtual machine application OS disk would be created. If I do a refresh, I should be able to see the public IP as well. So this is the public IP that I have created, right? So what I need to do is now I need to associate with my virtual machine. To associate this public IP address, I need to click to this associate button. Then I have to choose the resource type as network interface. Then I have to choose the network interface. So this is the network interface for app VM1. So I'll choose this and click OK. This association will take few seconds, so we'll just wait for it. So it says successfully associated. So if I refresh it, it should show me this associated with app VM1. Okay, now let's revisit the virtual machine 1 that we have created. So to do that, I will go to virtual machines, click on app VM1. Now I will try to connect it using RDP, since this is a Windows server. So I need to connect it via RDP. But if I do that, now 2 checks has been passed, like the virtual machine is running. It has a public IP address, but it says port requisite is not met. What does it mean? So in order to connect a virtual machines over RDP, the port number 3389 should be open. So what can we do about it? What we can do, we can create something called a network security group, which is nothing but a software firewall, and on that NSG we can allow port 3389 from our computer, so that we can connect to this virtual machine. So to create NSG, what we will do, we'll type network security group in the search. We'll select this option called Network Security Group and then click on Create. Again, Network Security Group creation is a very straightforward process. You need to select an RG or create a new one. Since this is for app App1 VM, so we'll host this an App RG1. We'll give it a name. We'll call it App NSG1 and with region wise Central India ones looks fine. We'll click on Review and Create to validate it. So this validation has passed, so we'll now create it. Network Security Group's creation will only take a couple of seconds, so my resource has been created. So I can click on Go to Resources to go to my NSG. Now, if you notice, NSG already has two kinds of rules called inbound security rules and outbound security rules. What does it mean by inbound security rules? Inbound security rules means it will protect all the incoming traffic. Outbound means it will protect or filter all the outgoing traffic. So to use an NSG, first I need to associate with it, similar to a public IP address. So if I go to a network interfaces, it is giving me an option to an association. So I'll click on associate and again choose the app VM1 NIC card to associate with it. Now that I have associated this, let us revisit the virtual machine and see if it is now eligible for RDP or not. Since this VM is in my recent section, I'll go from here app VM1 directly and click on connect. Now it says checking network security group for inbound access to client IP address. We'll wait for a few seconds. It says port prerequisite is still not met. So why it's not met? Because we have not created any rule in our network security group to allow our IP address. What we will do first, if you type in my Google, say what is my IP, it will give you your public IP address. This is the easiest way to search your public IP. And then we would go to a network security group. You can locate it from three little bar in the subtotal menu, all services. Then type network security groups. So if I go to network security groups, I see there is app NSG1. Now, since I'm going to connect to the virtual machine, so that would be an incoming connection for this virtual machine, I'll create an inbound security rule. I'll click on add in the inbound security rule section. I'll say source is an IP address. I can choose my IP address. It will automatically take my IP address, or you can choose an IP address and paste your IP address, and you can paste by/32. That means only this IP address, or you can only mention that IP address. Both mean same thing. I'll keep source port range as any. Destination should be the IP address of the virtual machine, right? So in order to do that, I need to grab the IP address of this virtual machine from another tab. If I go to app VM1, so this is the public IP address of this virtual machine. So I'll grab that and I'll paste that. So this means my IP is allowed to connect to this IP address. Again, only mentioning IP and providing it /32 means the same thing. /32 means one IP. This is the one thing that you should remember for also exam perspective as well. Service name, since I want to do RDP, I can choose the RDP service directly from here, or I can directly mention that. So why I'm not getting RDP here? So if I choose RDP service, it's already automatically taking port 3389, but if you choose custom instead of this, well, I'm not able to find it right now, but that should be fine. We'll try it again. So RDP service I have selected. Action should be allowed because this priority is something that the order of evaluation. So the higher the priority, the rule first get evaluated. So priority 100 looks fine to me. I'll give it a name. Allow RDP. So I'll say allow RDP from my laptop as a description so that I can remember why I have added this rule. This rule creation will take only a couple of seconds. After that, we'll go and revisit that particular virtual machine and we'll see if the virtual machine RDP service access is now enabled or not. To do that, I can directly go to app VM1 from my recent tab and now click on connect and select RDP. It's again evaluating the rule. I don't know why it did not took it, but yeah. I just removed this last 32 to see like in case it has not taken an effect. But it should be taken an effect, it should not be an issue. So updated, I'll click on connect. Still says port because it has not met destination in inbound network security destination port 338, and that I have already added. That I can see from the networking allow RDP 3389 is already added from my public IP address. So what I will do without wasting time, I will click on connect, click on RDP and then download the RDP file and then select on it. Okay, it's not able to connect, so that means there is something is wrong with this network security rule. So what we will do, we'll try to fix it. First we will delete this existing rule and then click on add an inbound rule. We'll say source is my IP address. So this custom service was something that I was unable to locate. This is because it was beside the Windows admin center, but yeah, what I want to do is I want to do RDP. So instead of RDP this time I will choose custom. I'll choose any protocol is allowed and everything is allowed. And I'll put the destination port trade as start. That means any traffic from my machine to this variant should be allowed. Say allow all traffic from my laptop this time. So basically I'm allowing all traffic. Let this rule get created and then we will try again. So this rule has been created now. So if I see allow all traffic and I have whitelisted my IP. Now let me click on connect. It should be green now. All three should be green and should be able to connect. See, now it has been refreshed. So there was some issue with Azure portal itself, so why it's not able to refresh. So we'll use a different account because I did not create it. I'll put the username. And as you can see, like I can get into this particular virtual machine. So as you can see that it is preparing my user profile to log into this particular virtual machine, and within another couple of seconds we should be within this particular virtual machine. Yeah, bang, there it is. Like we are currently got logged into this particular virtual machine, and now we can configure this virtual machine as per our need. But what we will do, I'll just simply log off first because I don't want to do anything right now with this. Virtual machine. Let it sign out, let out get so disconnected. I want to show you this is because of the inbound rule that I have added. That is why I can access. Now, if I modify this rule and click deny and say deny, okay, what I will do, first I will remove this rule. Denying or removing would do the same thing. So I'll just simply delete this rule. Let this rule get deleted, and then I will try to connect. And you'll see we should not be able to connect to this virtual machine again. I'll do the same process. Click on connect, select RDP, download the RDP file. Now it says initiating remote connections, and it will say that the remote desktop is unable to locate to this particular server, and we'll certainly see an error in shortly. See, this says remote desktop cannot connect to the remote computer for one of the reasons. Remote access to the server is not available, computer is turned off, or the remote computer is not available on this network. So reason number 3 is correct for us because we have not allowed this IP to access to this virtual machine. So this is the reason why you should use NSG to filter your traffic. So this is a lot about the virtual machine NSG public IP. Now we will jump into something called serverless actions. So one of the popular serverless items is called web app. If you type a web app here and select the web app and click on create, then this place will open. Again, any Azure resources needs a resource group to be hosted. So I'll choose a resource group. I'll choose AppRT1 to be the host for this web app, and I will name this web app as so this web app 1 name is not available because this name needs to be globally unique within this Azure website.name name. So I'll choose something random so that I can get a and what I want to publish, I just simply want to publish a code. I don't care about anything else. So I'll say it's a .NET or .NET 6 code that I want to host, and I want to host it in Central India. So it says you create something called ASP or App Service Plan. App Service Plan is the host or underneath virtual machine or underneath the thing that Microsoft manage behind the scenes, but you need to create one app service plan to host your web app. Although like any management like OS patching, upgrade or resizing, sizing, that you need not to do. So I'll create a web app plan here by clicking on create new. I'll give a plan called ASP1. And I'll go with free pricing tier, free shared infrastructure, because that should be fine for me. On the next deployment tags, I'll say continuous deployment is disabled because this is not in the scope of AZ-900, so I'll omit it. For networking, I don't want it to be, I cannot enable it with a virtual network because that option is only available for basics or IS. So by running with free, so I'll just change it to let's say basic B1. Now if I go to the networking tab, it will say enable network injection. So I can select a virtual network for this particular one and select enable private endpoint for that virtual network. But again, since this is out of scope, I will just omit this. I will change back the plan to free F1. I'll go to monitoring tab and basically configure that. For this one, I don't want an application inside a monitoring tool that will collect the monitoring data for the application and help you to diagnose the application performance. But currently I don't want that, so I'll click on no and go for review plus create. Once validated, I will click on create to create this web app. This will take a couple of minutes to create a new web app, and we can locate this web app from, if you go to home, then this three little bar or so portal menu, click on all services, then type web app. You will get something called app services. Within that you should be able to see your app. So it says deployment is not valid, so I couldn't, that was not succeeded, so we'll have to attempt one. So I'll choose app service, now click on create. I think we have made something mistake on the networking section. So give it a random numbers to select. I'll choose the say .NET 6 code. Oh, and I need to choose Central US because okay, I'll choose Central India, and my ASP was not created. I will give a different name, ASPCI1CI for Central India. I'll keep everything as it is. I will directly go for review plus create. Oh, I should disable the monitoring, so I'll disable that. So that's fine. Region has 0 quota for your subscription. Choose a different region or subscription. So it's not allowing me to create a free subscription on this region. So that is fine. We'll try a different region. Previously I thought it was something I did in networking, but that was not the issue. I did not have any preference. So it is suggesting me to do in Central US. So we'll go with Central US. I'll choose the runtime stacker .NET 6. Central US is fine. I'll give CU for ASP App Service Plan Central US 1, and we'll click Freight and structure. Now I will go to the next tab, deployments. And I will not enable any of these settings. I'll directly jump into the monitoring section to disable the monitoring. Now run for the validation to create this. Now you might be wondering why Knowledge Bytes is showing us all these things, all these errors and other things. You could have easily skipped this errors, edit the video. The only reason I am showing you all those things, because if you encounter an error, then you can read my video, see your error message and see, okay, Knowledge Byte had this error, so that is why I am getting this error. That is why he chose this other region. And this may not be useful for your exam, But while you are working as a cloud administrator or a cloud engineer, this would be certainly useful to gain and hone your practical knowledge. So now my resource has been created. I will go to this resource. And there is this tab called Browse. If I click a Browse, a default web page should be opened. So this is the default web page. It says your web app is running and waiting for your content. Since I do not have a code and I will not be publishing a code for as part of this AZ-900, we'll just close this and let it be. Cool. So far we have learned about web app, virtual machines. Now let us learn about something called storage services, because we have virtual machines, we have applications. Now where do I store a data? To store data, Azure has a solution called storage account. To create a storage account, you can click on create a resource. Then type in storage account in the filter. Choose this option called storage account. Choose this option called storage option and click on create. Again, first thing that it will ask is the resource group. So I want it to be app RG1, because later I'll configure the storage account for the boot diagnostics account for the virtual machine one, and also for the logging for the web app that we have created. I'll give it a name. This name again has to be unique. I'll choose Central India. I'll choose with performance with standard tier, because that is the recommended for most. Premium is where you want very fast performance, high performance storage account, but what is not required. Redundancy wise, I do not read geo-redundant. Geo-redundant means it's geographically redundant, so your data would be replicated to a different region. For now, I am fine with locally redundant regions where my data would be replicated to a particular different data center. So if you are wondering about what are the other regions, other redundancy, other things, that we will discuss in AZ-104 course, not in this course, because that is not required for this particular course. And also out of scope for your exam and other purposes. So I'll give it a storage account name. Again, the storage account name has to be globally unique, so I'm giving something like unique name over here with random numbers or other things. On the advanced tab, I will not change any of these options. I will go with whatever it is there. Networking options, again, I will not change anything. Data protection, I will uncheck everything. If you want, you can keep this. Basically, I'm not going to change any of these options, because all these things is not out of scope for particular this course. What we will do, we'll only create the storage account and then configure that as a boot diagnostic. For the storing the diagnostic data for that other virtual machine. And also we will upload some files for the storage account as well. So creating the storage account will take a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, I'll create a notepad file called a storage file called data, and where I have some Word file. So it's a simple storage file, nothing fancy. So now my storage account is almost created. So okay. So now I can go to the storage account resource. So similar to previous other resources, in the overview section shows in the resource group where it is located, the location, the storage account, performance tier, which was the first standard. If you have chosen premium, it would have been shown premium here. And the replication means the redundancy, it's a locally redundant storage. So that means my data would be replicated to 2 data centers at least, which should be 100 miles apart from each other for redundancy purposes. Now, in storage account, there are 4 kinds of services. One is called containers. Container is something where you can store any kind of file. It's more of a like a folder. You can think containers as folder in your computer, where you can, like, if you create a container called, I'll create a container called data. So one container would be created. Now I can upload a file here, like so. I have a file right in my desktop called data, so I'll upload that. So this is the use of containers. You will store any kind of data, and these data are called blocks. There is another thing called file share. This file share is something that you will use the not traditional file sharing or network-based SMB file share that you use in your Windows system, or NFS-based file share that you might have used in your Linux here. Queues is used for queue service, and that is out of scope for this scope. Table is a NoSQL based table. That's where you would be data would be stored in a more of a JSON structure. So it's not a relational table, it's a non-relational based table. But yeah, so these are the kind of things that you can do with the storage account. But for now, we'll go back to our virtual machine 1 and configure the boot diagnostic on virtual machine 1. To do that, I have opened the virtual machine blade. Now here, from here, I can type boot. So it will show me the option called boot diagnostics. So it says boot diagnostics is not configured in this virtual machine. To configure boot diagnostics, I need to click on settings. It said it's giving me 3 options. So I'll choose with option number 2, enable with custom storage account, and I'll choose the storage account that I created, and I'll save it. Now, upon saving this, the boot diagnostics option would be enabled, and all my virtual machine boot log, means startup logs, would be visible within the boot diagnostics course starting from shortly after this. Like now you are getting serial log and screenshot of the virtual machine. It says the screenshot of serial log file is found in diagnostic storage container. Data could take some time to become available. Yeah, that's fine. Like it will take up to 10-15 minutes to be available generally. So now if I revisit the storage account, I will see there is automatically another container is created called boot diagnostics app VM1 to store the diagnostic data of the storage account 1. And if I open this container, so as of now there is no data, but shortly after 10 to 15 minutes you will see new data should be coming into the storage account. So I hope you got clear idea like what is the use case of storage account and how you can use storage account. Now maybe you are interested to configure your virtual network logs also to be right in a storage account. That also you can do. To do that, what you need to do, you need to go to your virtual network, then click on the virtual network to open its virtual network blade. Then you can type on the search called diagnostics. So if you click on the diagnostic settings, it says no diagnostic settings defined. So what I will do, I will click on add diagnostic setting, and for now I will say I want to store all the logs, all matrices to a storage account. So I'll choose this subscription, and since I only have one storage account, this option is chosen. I'll give a diagnostic setting a name, so I'll say send to storage and save it. So what will happen? All my network related log and matrices data would be available on that on that storage account, and I can later revisit and see all the data within that for this virtual network within the storage account. So now this has been saved. Again, if I revisit the storage account and then containers, in the logs there is going to be storage log. We'll see a new container soon, like as and when the network logs are available, and that would be stored over here. So enough about like private accounts, other things. Now that we have configured an web application and network security group, a virtual machine application network, what about users, right? For user and identity management, Microsoft Azure has a solution called Azure Active Directory. To locate to Azure Active Directory, you can come from this show portal menu, or you can go from this Azure Active Directory in home screen. But if it is not there, then certainly come from your show portal menu, click on all services, then type for Azure Active Directory. Ideally it would be available in this tab, but if it is not available, then type Active Directory and you will go to Azure Active Directory. So within Active Directory there are options called users and groups. Say I want a new user. Let's say I want a new user called Chris. So how would I create that? So there are two options. Either I can invite him, an external user, that means anybody who is outside of my organization, or I can create a new user. So for this example, Chris is a new user who is recently joined our organization. So I have to create his login. I will click on new user, then create new user. Then choose this template called create user. Then I'll choose a username for him. I'll say Chris H is his username. His full name, let's say his full name is Chris Hallam. So Chris is his first name. Hallam is this. And I would go with auto-generated password, and which I can share to this user. So this is giving him password, or you can also choose let me create the user password and you can create one. But now I'll go with that. See, it's also giving me 0 group selected, 0 roles is user. So yeah, fine. And I don't want it to be him, to be any other different. Let's say I have another user. Just taking some, it will take some time to display. So I will create another user called Kaku, who is also part of this. Again, Kaku H. Let's assume his name is Kaku Hallam. And I'll go with auto-generated password and I'll click on create. So you see that Chris Hallam user, I can see if I do a refresh, the Kaku user should also be got created as well. So now that I have created the users, what about giving role? I'm assuming Kaku is an HR and Chris is an IT user. So, and I want them to be part as a group. So what I can do, I can create a group. And I can say group type is security. I'll say it's group called HR group. In the description, I'll say human resource as the group description and name and HR. And I will choose Chris as a member of this group. It's taking a time to get it reflected, but it should be reflected shortly. Now it has been reflected. Similarly, I wanted Kaku is the group of IT. So I'll create a group called IT. This time we will not assign any user directly. After creating the group, we will assign Kaku to this group. Says the group has been successfully created, so I'll give couple of refreshes so that it shows me in this blade. Okay. Now I can see IT group. So if I see IT group, it's showing me couple of properties, 0 users are available, 0 owners are available. What I want to do this time, I want to add Kaku as a member as well as the owner. So first what I will do, I'll choose Kaku here from clicking on the members tab, then add member. And I also want Kaku is the owner of this group. Let's say he is my principal architect or principal IT guy, so I'll choose him as a owner. So what it means of owner and member? A member is just part of a group, and all the policies and things, applications, role, accesses would be applicable for users, where owner is a person who can directly manage this group. So think of it in the simpler terms, like Kaku is the manager and there is other people who is reporting to him. So maybe let's say there is another user joined our team called Amol. Let's say his name is Amal Das, where Amal is first name and Das is the second last name. I'll create it. Now that I have created this, I want him to be part of IT group as well because he is also an IT guy. I can do, now I can add him, or this user Kaku can also add this user called Amal. Now this group has 2 members. So what does it mean? Means within IT, it is always possible in any organization. Kaku is the manager and while Amul is his reporting. So this is a simply typical way where a user you can create a user can get a login and email and other things. Like for this user, this is his email address that he can use for logging in. This is all the things, like if I want to edit more about this person, like I can say like he's IT management, he works in IT department, he is an employee ID of, this is employee ID. For Kaku doesn't have a manager, so I'll choose save. Since Kaku is Amal's manager, so I'll set his profile accordingly. Say he is an IT engineer, he is an employee ID of this. Department is this, and I'll choose Kaku as his manager so that this could be reflected in the directory. Also, I could add all tons of details for like this user, like where he is located or other things, like anything that is specific thing. But as of now, that is not needed. Even I can upload image for that particular user to identify that. But that's fine. So basically, what I'm trying to give a basic idea about like what you can do with Azure Active Directory, how you can use Azure Active Directory for your user and group management. So this was the things that I wanted to show you as part of the common things and common users. Last but not the least, I want to show you another service called Azure Monitor. To come to Azure Monitor, you can click on this show portal menu or 3 little bar on top left corner, then click on Monitor. So each and every thing that we are going to do is an activity and would be logged in activity logs. So I'm checking the subscription level logs and it will show me like all the things in for last 6 hours. I can choose it to be for last month, last 24 hours. Let's say I want to know for last 24 hours. Like whatever things I have done, like I've created a website, I've created a storage account, I have uploaded a blog file, everything has been logged over here. So based on this, if I want to create an alert, let's say I want to be notified, like whenever my virtual machine is like over 80% CPU users, I can create that by coming to alert section, then click on create, then select alert rule. And I can select the subscription. Okay, I don't want an alert and subscription, rather sorry, I'll choose a scope properly. I'll choose the virtual machine as a scope. Now I'll choose a condition. So I'll say percentage CPU because I want an alert whenever the average CPU percentage is greater than 80%. Again, this alert creates an alert. You would not get any questionnaires or things part of AZ-900, but I'm showing you just for your knowledge sake. So when I'm saying whenever average CPU usage is greater than 80% for a period of 5 minutes, when the evaluation samples I am collecting every 1 minute, give me an things. So what next is action. So I need to select something called an action group. So I do not have an action group. So I'll create an action group. I'll save it in app.rg1. This action group is a global resource, or otherwise you can create in the 2 other regions, but I'll choose global for now. I'll say app1 alert notifications, and I'll give it an display name as app1 alerts. Next, notification wise, I need to provide an email address. Let's say I want to notify XYZ, so I am notify ABC person. So obviously you need to put an name of the person. So this is the person name. So I've given an ABC name because I given a random name here. Then I can click review plus create and click on create. So now that my alert has been created, so I'll click on detail. So it says like what is this severity, means how severe is this alert. I would say this is a warning. I'll give it a name called alert rule name high CPU users for FBM1. I'll give a alert rule description over 80% CPU has been consumed for FBM1, so that I know like why I'm getting this alert. On the advanced option, I'll keep it as it is. That means enable upon creation, when that means activate is alert as soon as it has been created, and automatically resolve alert. That means whenever the condition has been not met or condition became false, automatically resolve the alert, so that you don't need to close false positive alerts. So click on review plus create to create the alert. It will take 1 minute to get the alert created. And this is the default dashboard where you can see all the alerts that has been triggered in past 24 hours, and you can change the scope to like 7 days, 30 days or any custom scope. For now, past 24 hours looks too good to me. And if you want to see your alert rules and like modify it, then you can do that by coming to this section alert rules and then clicking on that particular alert rule, and then you can modify the conditions if you want to. But for now, that should be fine. So these were the things that I wanted to discuss as part of Common Azure Services. If you like this video, please do like, share and subscribe, and please share this video with your friends as well for their knowledge sake. If you have any suggestion, any doubt or any query, please post them in the comment section so that we can resolve it as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. We'll be back on with part 6 soon.